Following John Klingberg getting sent to the LTIR by the Toronto Maple Leafs, numerous rumors are surfacing that the Leafs now could be ready to strike a deal for Nikita Zadorov and Chris Tanev. So we'll break that down in this episode of Leafs Digest, as well as Elliot Friedman. He has reported the Leafs have indeed met with Patrick Kane, and does it make sense that they sign him now? So to break all that down, before we do get into that, quick reminder, hit the subscribe button. About 80% of you guys who are watching right now aren't subscribed. It would mean the world. We're on the road to 5,000 subs, so go down. If you're not subscribed already, click the button, because we make 1 to 2 Leafs videos every single day. All right, let's get right into the first topic of the day, which is a potential huge trade incoming. Now, if you saw our video reacting to this, we're all aware, depending on when I upload this, was either yesterday or earlier today, John Klingberg was sent to the LTIR by the Toronto Maple Leafs, and they made a few moves in succession to that, but the Klingberg situation is finally starting to come to a resolution. Now, as of the time of recording, it is unknown if Klingberg's out for the season, if he's out for just a few weeks. I believe, as of right now, he's out at least until December 12th, I believe. Correct me if I'm wrong in the comment section. But this opens up a lot of potential areas for Brad Treliving to make a move. Now, two of the big offseason acquisitions in Ryan Reaves and Klingberg have been 0 for 2 for the Toronto Maple Leafs. Probably some of the worst acquisitions you could have made given what you know now. Do I blame Brad Treliving necessarily? No, but the Klingberg situation got very, very bad. But what this means is that we've obviously been discussing about how some potential moves are coming. Nikita Zadorov keeps getting mentioned in trade talks with the Toronto Maple Leafs. Now that John Klingberg is, salary's gone, Treliving now has the cap space to get Big Z, which is Nikita Zadorov. Now, the cap situation's a bit interesting. It obviously depends a little bit on how John Klingberg, what his situation is, whether he'll be out for the season or he'll be out for a little bit regarding the cap. But at the very least, Brad Treliving, if he's on the LTIR, especially for the rest of the season, now has the cap space to potentially swing a move for Nikita Zadorov and Chris Tanev, and it opens up a roster spot as well. We know that they called up Alex Steeves from the Marlies, who's been dominating down there. Unbelievable goal scorer. And I'm curious to see how he fits in and slots into the wing position for the Toronto Maple Leafs in the 4th and 3rd line. That'll be exciting to see in their next game. But the big thing here now is Nikita Zadorov. And another report dropped saying, I'm told the Devils, the Stars, and the Maple Leafs are among clubs expressing interest in Zadorov. And the exception is that discussions could ramp up when the Leafs return from Sweden. This was 5 days ago. They're obviously back from Sweden now. The Klingberg situation kind of is solved in the meantime, at least until December 12th. Does it make sense that the Leafs now replace John Klingberg? Because remember, they called up Alex Steeves, who was not a defenseman, he's a winger, instead of getting up a different defensive guy. So they did not call up a defenseman. They called up a forward, which is interesting. Does that mean that a trade could potentially be looming? Now, we're all familiar with Nikita Zadorov. I made a few videos about him. He would be very, very good for the Toronto Maple Leafs to add. He's physical. He's 6'6". He's only 28 years old. He is a pending pending UFA, meaning he's unrestricted. Could the Leafs strike a deal for Nikita Zadorov and Chris Tanev in one package, and then go ahead and re-sign Nikita Zadorov to potentially, 2 or 3 year contract, depending on what he wants? That's the big question. Now, there was speculation about Klingberg potentially being a part of a Nikita Zadorov and Chris Tanev package because of how the salaries work. But now that if his salary gets shedded, it makes a lot of sense for the Leafs to potentially strike this deal. A lot of us have been wondering, why hasn't Brad Treliving, or, the rumors have died down a little bit. Obviously, because they were in Sweden, so obviously that was happening. But as well as being in Sweden, it just makes sense for them to wait until the John Klingberg situation was resolved. And it's temporarily resolved with this cap space opening up. Super, super interesting. And again, this was a couple days ago on the Elliot Friedman podcast. Teams are calling Calgary about having a window. These are the same reports we've seen. The Leafs want one, if not both. Clarity about Klingberg this week. The clarity is now. Elliot Friedman was right on the money with that. He is on the LTIR. So it's all lining up for a potential deal over the next coming days. They're back from Sweden. They play tomorrow. Maybe into the weekend, talks could ramp up. Obviously, other teams are mentioned in this. The Devils and Stars have been, especially the Stars have been one that have mentioned a ton. The question is, along with the Canucks as well, will the Leafs pay up? Will they give up a prospect? Elliot Friedman has reported that they probably want to give up, they want a fairly big piece from the Maple Leafs, a young prospect or player, whether that's, I'll let you guys discuss that in the comment section. Could be maybe Nick Robertson, Aberzizi, one of those guys. But the big thing here now, again, is that the Klingberg situation is solved. Now is the time to strike a potential Nikita Zadorov trade and Chris Tanev, given the salary, because those two combined, Tanev and Zadorov, depending on the 50% retained from the Flames, could work well if the Leafs want to acquire those guys. All right, let me know in the comment section. Are you happy about the Klingberg news? Are you sad? Do you think like this guy, where Treliving now has the cap space to get Big Z, being Nikita Zadorov, following Alex Steeves obviously getting called up, and Klingberg being placed on a long-term injury reserve? All right, let me know what your thoughts are on that. Let's move into the second topic of the day, which is another potential transaction. Patrick Kane to the Leafs. Now, I made a video on this about a week ago about there was rumors or speculation that Patrick Kane could be heading to the Leafs, that they've had meetings, and then another report came out that that was shut down and that they weren't having conversations, but this new one dropped by Elliot Friedman saying the Maple Leafs are among teams to meet with free agent Patrick Kane. This is an interesting situation because obviously the third and fourth line particularly have been playing very, very well since Ryan Reeves was, healthy scratched essentially and not really a part of the future plans. And now we have Alex Steeves who's called up. Could Kane potentially, slide into that Alex Steeves spot depending on how he plays? Because they do, like this mentions here, Leafs all of a sudden have $4 million in cap. Patrick Kane potentially. Now, obviously, if we're getting Nikita Zadorov and Chris Tanev, that might put a damper in things here. But I'm just talking about all of the potential possibilities that they have now that this cap space is inevitably going to be freed up, and inevitably a move is going to come. Patrick Kane used to be a superstar, used to be one of the best goal scorers, one of the best playmakers. He still has, you think some skill, especially in the playmaking category. Could you slot him on, the second line, the third line, the first line? There used to be talks, but this first line right now with Nyes is working very, very well. And Nyes at left wing. So I don't know. I'm curious to see what you think about Patrick Kane. I know most of you probably don't want him on the team. He's washed a little bit. He might be commanding term. There are reports coming out that he wants a 2 to 3 year deal, in which case the Leafs should probably hang up the phone and not even, contact him. Do you want to, especially with the way the third and fourth line has been playing, which has been very, very good, specifically Nick Robertson and those guys, Noah Gregor, David Kampf, they're playing so well that do you want to mess up their chemistry? Obviously, Nick Robertson and Kampf, who knows how long they'll continue to produce the way they've been producing, but do you want to, mess up the chemistry and use your cap space on a guy like Patrick Kane? Or would you rather pivot and use it on Nikita Zadorov and players like that? Or would you want to maybe use them on both, depending on what's happening? I know a lot of Leafs fans out there just want to focus on the blue line. And I'm kind of with you on the blue line thing there. And again, if you look back to this podcast a few days ago, we got everything right about this, especially about the John Klingberg clarity. And he also said Leafs talk to Patrick Kane. So again, Kane's an interesting guy. He's coming off injuries, coming off major surgery. So I'm very, very curious to see if he can come back from that, coming off that major surgery could dampen his ability to do very good, or he could really help the PK for the Leafs. He could really, be a good playmaker, elevate, potentially some of the younger guys' game, Nyes, Alex Steeves. But I don't know. It's just an interesting conversation to have, and ultimately I think that they won't sign Patrick Kane. I don't think it makes too much sense with the way that all the young guys have been playing. But it is interesting that they met with him, and now does the John Klingberg situation with the new cap space open up a potential avenue for the Leafs to acquire Patrick Kane? Because, again, Patrick Kane's a guy that probably won't, he would fit in any team, but I don't know if the Leafs are going to prioritize that right now. But at the very least, they did reach out to him, so it's going to be interesting to see, and I'm hoping that they stick and try to improve the blue line in the way of Nikita Zadorov and Chris Tanev. But that'll wrap up the video. Let me know in the comment section what your thoughts are on this. Would you rather Zadorov, Tanev for prospects, or would you rather sign Patrick Kane for free? Let me know in the comment section below, and we'll see you guys in tomorrow's video.